Welcome back, casual fans. I am Nessa.
And I'm T.
And together we are the Casual Fangirls. Today, we are deviating briefly from our superhero talk, Marvel, DC, yada, 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 right? To talk and chat about something else that had a grip on the pop culture. And that is actually coming back for season 2, March 25th. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and all those in between. We are talking about Bridgerton, season 1, the celebrated Netflix show that had us burning for every episode.
Burning.
Burning. I burn for you.
No, I burn for you.
So we are coming up on season 2 soon. So we obviously want to dive back into season 1, talk about it, because T and I have rewatched these seasons multiple times, talked about it so much, like so many hours, talked about it. And so it's developed its own hardcore, diehard fan following. So we definitely want to get to you guys. And I'm going to have T kick us off with the spoiler warning.
So, you know the drill by now. If you haven't seen what we're about to talk about, why are you here? I mean, I'm happy you're here, but also like, why are you here? So if you haven't seen Netflix's Bridgerton, which came out, I believe it was December 25th, 2019, maybe?
2019? Ooh, yeah.
I think so. I think it was right before the pandemic it came out. We should look that up. We're bad. We'll do better next time, guys. Watch it. Go back. It's on there now. Please go. Do not watch the trailer for the new season because it might spoil some stuff. You want to just go straight in with the first couple of scenes where you hear Lady Whistledown. Can't wait to talk about Lady Whistledown. So please go back to Netflix and watch Bridgerton if you have not seen it yet. If you read the books, which we'll talk about in a hot second, up to you what you want to do. Completely up to you. I think you have enough context. Just know that the books are not the same as the show. If you read the books, sit down and join us for a while and talk about it. Let's get into it.
Yes. All right. So a little bit of background information. This show comes from Shondaland. Miss Shonda Rhimes, the queen herself, who is known for bringing us shows such as Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and How to Get Away with Murder. This show's an adaptation, just like T said, from the book series of the same name by Julia Quinn. And the story goes that Shonda was on a vacation and ran out of things to read. And so she picked up some historical romance, and it happened to be Julia Quinn's novel, and by chance, and the rest is history, and here we are. So T, give us the recap. Tell us what this season was about.
Okay, so this is a little new for us. So usually when we go into the recap, we kind of expect our viewers, you guys, people at home, to kind of already know like the world that we're in and all of those things. So now that we're branching into a completely different story, a completely different universe, basically, we're going to give you a little bit of recap about what happens in the show and like the era it's in, and then we'll talk in way more detail about what the world actually looks like. So to begin us off, the show takes place in the Regency era of England. In the early 1800s, the Mad King George, or King George III, is the technical ruler, right? And the country's socialites, the families of government agents and the wealthy, are in London for the summer season. It's during this time that all eligible ladies of these families who have reached womanhood are on the marriage market. And it's a mad dash to find someone who is willing to marry you before the season is over. It's almost like Squid Games or something, but like for regular like people, I think.
For marriage. Is this right. Squid Games or marriage? Amazing.
Did I get that right? Because I haven't seen Squid Games.
Oh,
sorry.
We'll talk about that another time.
Easily. Give me props for getting it right if I didn't see it. Anyways, so what I said, it's a mad dash to find someone who's willing to marry you before the season is over, right? This season, right, follows Daphne Bridgerton and her debut into society. We watch how she navigates the societal pressures, family dynamics, and perceptions of love and marriage while on her quest to find a true love match. Now, normally, this is the point in time, if you watched any of our previous episodes, you realize we kind of have a certain rhythm and how we do things. I reach out to my beautiful co-host, Nessa, and I say, what are your thoughts on the show? Like, how'd you like it? How'd you feel about it? Blasey, blasey, blasey. We're going to kind of reframe that and get very specific so that we can kind of like pull out our feelings about it a little bit more. So Nessa, I'm going to ask you, if you had to pick 3 to 5 words to describe, let's go with the show since it's only one season, and then in next seasons we'll just do by season. What are the words that you would choose?
So the words that I have are spicy, messy, scandalous, and sexy. This show.
You and I, we could 2 completely different ways in our words. And
Did
I think,
we?
oh, we did, yes. And I think it speaks to our personalities, but please go ahead.
Interesting. I was here for all the scandal, all the mess. I loved Lady Whistledown's basically like gossip rag, honestly, of like the season. You know, she's our like inside edition.
Yeah, she's basically their shade room.
Right. She's our shade room. Oh, you're all right. She's our shade room, our baller alert. Damn, I dated myself by saying inside edition. Wow, I tried it. Yes, she is our shade room, our baller alert, all that stuff, right? And she's letting us know the dirty, dark secrets of high society London. And I loved all the sex. I loved all the plots and turns and betrayal and backstabbing and all that stuff that this season had to give. What words did you use? I'm interested now that like you're like we're opposite.
No one will ever be able to say that you and I are identical. I will definitely say that. In like how we think or anything else. I chose Barbie.
Okay.
Yes, Barbie. Choice and pressure, right? So you were describing like how the show feels. I chose words that speak to like the main points I pulled out of the show, I think. So just a little bit of different in like how we approached it. So I chose Barbie because when a lot of girls are younger, especially our generation of women, when they were younger, we played with Barbies, right? When we were younger, and we had the Barbie and the dream house and the Ken, and we used to do all these like fantastical, dramatic, and plays of just like how we think romance goes, how we think relationships go, how we think marriage goes. Think Bruno and his rats and his telenovelas, right? Like we used to do that with Barbies. And so much of this show is a story of a girl realizing what love and marriage and relationships and dating is actually like in the real world, that the term Barbie like triggers that for me. Like she instead
of this plastic world. Kind of thing. I'm a Barbie girl.
Right. This like plastic dream world that she's made up in her mind of like how these things go to like how things actually go. Like think back to when you used to play with Barbies and Ken, right? Or whatever the Black name for Barbie was. I don't remember at this point in time. But I remember the Black dude was Steven because I had Stevens. His name was Steven. Like think back. It's just like, oh, like you're going to make me dinner and like all this other stuff, right? It's BS. That's not how life actually goes when you get to be an adult. So that's why I chose Barbie. The word choice, because there's so many societal pressures and expectations for different individuals in this show, depending on their gender, their economic status, their race, like a bunch of different of these like different demographic attributes. And by the end of the show, you get a sense of like how everyone is doing their best to make the best choices they can within those restrictions. So that's choice. Yeah. And then the third one I said was pressure, because I don't think there's one character on the show who didn't feel like they were under some level of pressure. Main character, like not the kids, of the like adults. Everyone was dealing with some level of stress, some level of turmoil, which is a lot to balance when you have a hefty cast. It's like 20-25 people had speaking lines across the show. So
that's a good point.
Everyone had, I mean, from some of the supporting characters, everyone had some level of tension. So those are my 3 words. Clearly we are 2 different people because we approach that very differently. And we could talk about how we want to do this later, but
I love that though. Like, and that's why we work so well together, because it's like I come in with my certain perspective and you are like definitely, and I've described like you to other people in this way, like where it's like when we do break down stuff, I feel like I get more like the general vibe and you break down more like the analytical, like logical storyline of like what's going on. And I'll be like, oh shoot, that did happen. I'm just like, but it just felt like a great moment. So I love that. I love that we balance each other in that way.
In other words, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between and outside of, Vanessa's the cool one and I'm the nerdy one. So I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. Totally fine.
Stop it.
It's okay. It's okay.
All right. Yeah. So let's get kind of like acclimated to this world, right? We drop down into this world in the Regency era, sorry. And it's 1813. And we are living by the whole set of different social rules. The dating rules are very, very different. The purity of women is held to the utmost standard, to the point where like you're not even supposed to like kiss another guy. You're not supposed to be found alone with him at all whatsoever. And this like ups your status in society. So the more pure you are, the better it is, not just for you, but for your siblings that follow after you, right? And that's where the pressure comes in that you were talking about. So we have our main character, Daphne, who is the eldest daughter of the Bridgertons, who is now going out into society. And it's literally like, all she keeps hearing is that the match that you make this season, oh yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, they have one season to find their betrothed. And
they have one season before their like stock goes down on the market. Like if you don't find your match, if a man doesn't choose you your first season out, you're basically like last month's liver. Like they don't even
listen care. You are basically 5th round draft pick at that point. Like
people stop watching.
People stop watching. It's like, damn, we got to fill some spots. So I guess but yeah, so it trickles down into your siblings, your family line, especially if we're talking about the women of the family. And we have to immerse ourselves into that world. And I feel like it draws big parallels to now, even though, because, you know, we might as well get into it, right? Like, even though, yes, societal standards have relaxed quite a bit from the Regency era, it still is this thing of like, I feel like my woman should be at least more pure than like, if we're talking about cis heterosexual relationships, right? It's like, oh, the woman should be more pure than the man is. And it's like, and you know, listen, so I want to bring some current drama into it, right? So the rapper known as Lil Durk did a interview recently where he was talking about his long-term girlfriend, India. And he was like, man, the thing that attracted me to her a lot was her body count. And he was like, you know, she hadn't been like passed around. She didn't have many partners. Mind you, this is a man with like 8 kids. You want to talk about passed around. This is a man with like 8 children by however different baby mamas. I'm not sure, but it's definitely not 1 or 2. Let's be very clear. And he's like, a thing that like held her up for me was that she hadn't been with a lot of guys. So this is still very clearly present in men's mind, where it's like the body count of a woman matters in terms of her status.
I thank you for sharing that, Nessa. I really appreciate when you bring in pop culture into our conversations. I had no idea that was something that was happening right now, as you can see by my face. I am not shocked, but also shocked that was a thing, right? I think that line of thinking happens way more than is talked about publicly, and I'm shocked that he mentioned it publicly. That's where the shock comes in. But I'm not shocked that thinking is still something that happens. I do think that now, whereas like back in the Regency era, that was like law, a woman's body count. Like, to your point about you can't kiss, you can't do whatever. You can't even be in the same room alone with a man.
You're supposed to be chaperoned.
You're supposed to be chaperoned the entire time. I don't know if you noticed in the show, but everybody had on, like Daphne had on gloves. You can't touch skin until the day you get married, right? from there to now, obviously we've made great strides, and I would like to think, a sizable chunk of men in various communities. I think you and I are mostly familiar with dating in the Black community, of men who don't care about that. Like, they actively are just like, I don't even want to know your body count. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not about to sit up here and have that conversation. It doesn't matter. But I think there is just as big, if not a little bit larger, I would say, a community of men where even if they say it doesn't matter, it matters to a certain extent. So it's definitely one of those, like, watching this show and seeing like, okay, this used to be law in many societies. I mean, we're in England, but same thing in the US. This is what, not even 50 years after the American Revolution. Like, it's the same king, right? Doing both of those things. So like, this is where like American dating started, basically, with this era. So it's nice to see that, but also like to see how we haven't really gotten that far, because
in certain ways.
Yeah,
for sure. Another notable mention about this world that we are in is that racial relations are very different. And Shonda and her writers wanted to make a point of creating this alternate world where enslaved peoples, Black folks, were got their freedom way sooner than we actually did in reality. So we do see Black people of notable stature. You know, it's not a secret that the queen is of mixed race and is stepping in for the king, who has stepped back because of his illnesses and his madness. But then even the Duke of Hastings, Reggae Jean. Hold on, I need a moment of silence for Reggae Jean.
I would rather give him like a moment of twerking, but I don't want to get up right now.
Yes. Drop it low for Reggae Jean. He is the Duke of Hastings, and his father before him was the Duke. So we are seeing such mixed race, diverse people in all, various levels of socioeconomic standing. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was an interesting choice and a wonderful choice. I'm happy.
I have comments.
I'm happy that they went that route. And I love seeing Black and brown faces and, being in different various levels of society, whether it's the queen or if it is just a boxer in his life, but seeing and seeing how at this point it seems that race is not the major issue. Now, money is a thing that will always be an issue. Let's get that straight. Even if we were like racially equal and everything like that, money and standing and family name will always be an issue. And I'm okay with that. So I'm glad that most of the time, race is not necessarily the factor of what we're talking about. What are your comments? Or are you saving it for later?
No, I'll say it now.
Say it.
So no, I'll say it now. So just to give the viewers some context, like Nessa and I, this point about relations in Bridgerton has been a journey for us, right? Like when we first watched the show, I think this might have been the first show we were watching around the same time, like just like, hey, I'm watching this, I'm watching that. There came up, we just, you walk in and it's just like, you walk into this all-white family, you walk into this other all-white family in the first scene. Some of their like handmaids are like of mixed race, different races and everything like that. You're like, all right, this tracks. This is what I know of history. And then the Duke steps on the scene and you're just like, he pulls up on the horse and you're like, he got money and he's fine and he's Black. What is happening here? And so the first like 2 or 3 episodes, I think it's 2 episodes, you're kind of just in this world where it's like, all right, racial relations that we know are not a thing. Then the like I think it's the second, third, or fourth episode, I should have been more specific about it. There's a quick conversation between Lady Danbury and the Duke where she mentions like all of this can be taken away. It was given to us despite our race, and all of this can be taken away. And that was the moment, and I don't know if you remember, Nessa, where you and I was just like, oh no, you messed up the fantasy that we were living at that point in time. We didn't have the context that Nessa just gave you, that Shonda and her team purposely tried to imagine a world where, and just for historical purposes, I just know this, Black enslaved people in England got their freedom way before in the United States. United States were one of the last countries to do it, because home. But but to your point, Shonda and her team were trying to imagine a world where, okay, like when Black people did get their freedom, our freedom, what if equality like really happened immediately, and not like this weird misconception of like, we're giving you a little bit of freedom, but like obviously even till today it's not all equal. So I say all that to say that it's been a journey. So for the majority of my time understanding Bridgerton, I've had this chip on my shoulder about that point, about like bringing, in my head, they were bringing the race relations that I thought weren't a thing into the show. And that was just really confusing. But now with that context, I agree with you. I actually really like it. I just wish that was like clear from the beginning that this was where the show was going with that.
Yeah, I feel the same way, because just like you said, like you mentioned, we were kind of just like, oh, we're just being dropped into this alternate world, right? So for me, I felt like, oh, race never mattered. There was never slaves. It's just, we are a mixed people and this is how it is. And this is the diversity. And I love that. I love that idea above anything else. And I wish, and maybe this is a nitpick, but I wish they had made it and left it that way. I wish that it was never that Black people were enslaved. I wish it was just completely an alternate world where slavery never existed and it was never an issue of that. And just these people are living alongside of each other. So when they brought it up in that episode, I was just like, oh, man. I was like, they're doing a race thing now. And like, because I feel like as Black people at a certain point, or no, at least I do. Let me not speak for everyone, but I know I do. I get to a certain point where like I'm exhausted about talking about race relations. And like, I wish I could just see some of these worlds, especially if we're talking about like, especially like in the fantasy sci-fi kind of world and stuff like that. I wish there were shows and there were things where we just don't need to necessarily discuss race. Like, this is just a show about scandal and people and families and, you know, that kind of thing. And so when they brought it in, I was just like, I was a little disappointed by it, but it wasn't enough to like ruin the show for me.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a through line for the main characters, really.
Yeah.
It became a through line in the second to last episode for two of the supporting characters, Boxer and Lord Featherington. Like, he used it against them, right? And that's really when it was just like, okay, like, don't, like, what are we doing here, right, when it comes to race relations? But to your point, it wasn't a major through line of the show, so that helped.
Yeah, that definitely did help. Let's talk about some of the set pieces, the clothing, all the extravagant embellishments. How did you like it?
You know, how did I like it? I was very much, fashions from other eras just always like interest me. Like, oh, I wonder what the psychology was to like make people think that was the style. Like, I'm always fascinated by whether a style is influenced by the opposite gender. Like, what's the purpose of the style, right? Like, so nowadays I think it's like very blurred where style comes from. But for example, high heels were created in order to help accentuate people's booties for dating purposes, right? Like, that kind of thing. And I think with some of the garments we see on this show, I think a lot of that is relevant too, that like even the garments are situated to help women find a match.
Yeah.
Right. I think you had an example of one of that, like for like how the corsets, like why people wore corsets back then and things like that.
Right. Like in the Regency era is more like about accentuating the bust. There is a lot of like mythos, I think, around it, like, oh, we're trying to cinch the waist and do all that thing, but it really was about the tatas.
I missed my era, really, is what happened.
Oh, you would have been made a killing, girl.
Oh my goodness. I would have been right up under Charlotte. You'd like, you come here, sit right here.
Like the
Have
way
everybody look at us.
But yeah, so it really was a lot about accentuating the breasts, although in the show they do make it to make a point about accentuating the waist. And I think Lady Featherington makes a comment where she was like, oh, when I was your age, I could get my waist to the size of like a grapefruit and a half or something. And I was just like, geez, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. I mean, she was exaggerating, obviously, but
yeah, but the fashions definitely represent the families, where we see the Featheringtons, who are like this nouveau riche family, having these bright, gaudy colors and embellishments and yellows and pinks and bright colors to like, you know, attract mates and attract matches. Peacocking basically, yeah, where we have the Bridgertons, who have had money, old money, and and are sitting on top of society. They have more like muted kind of blue tones, neutral
white
tones. Yeah, white. A lot of these tones that kind of symbolize like purity and upper class, and it seems like their dresses and costumes are a little bit more classic to the silhouette and everything like that. So it's interesting how they use the costuming to differentiate those types of people and the different families and like what the family colors are and stuff. Like it's kind of like Game of Thrones, like what is your sigil, right? And that kind of thing. So it's like that's their way of doing it. And I thought that was a very smart and wonderful idea. I thought the set pieces were so beautiful. For any of our viewers who are lucky to travel abroad to Europe, let me tell you something. If you have not made it to Europe, there's a lot you guys are missing out on.
There's a lot of connections to what we learn in school that we're missing out on. Yeah. I think, like specifically too.
I think for me, when I traveled outside the US, especially to Europe, it reminded me how old the world is and how new America is. Because so I in particular, what I'm drawing upon is I've been to France and I've been to the Palace of Versailles, and like just walking the halls, you're just like, yo, people used to live here. Like this is what a bedroom used to look like.
I remember when I was in his bedroom, which looked down on I've been there too. Like looked down on his courtyard. I was just like, this like that big. Like
it's not, but even in the way it's decorated is beautiful. The gathering halls, the tea rooms, everything are so decadent, and like the ceilings are so high. You're just like, oh my gosh, people used to really live here. And so seeing that come to the screen, and it's not that we haven't seen it before, but like, you know, seeing it come to the screen in this way was just like pleasing to my eye.
I really enjoyed the music. I don't know if there are other viewers out there like me. I watch everything with subtitles. I'm slightly hard of hearing, so I need the subtitles on. And with the first ball they go to, one of the songs that's being played, like with the orchestra and the strings, is like a pop song. I forget the name of it, but it's a pop song that I recognize. And later on in the season, you hear Adam Levine and like Girls Like Me. And I'm just like, that was such a wonderful choice to make, to like take all these classical, you know, they're waltzing to pop songs basically. And I thought that was a great way to make the audience, like
it made it fresh.
It made it fresh, but it also subliminally triggered a level of comfort and just understanding for people who might have no interest or exposure to this world or this era, basically.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cleverly done.
That's a very good point to me. I definitely love that choice of like bringing in pop music and setting it in like that. I thought that was a smart, wise choice for them to make, instead of it just being like some Mozart, Beethoven type of thing. So when it's like you're sitting there, you're like, is that Ariana Grande?
That's the song, I think. I think that's the song I was thinking of. Yeah.
Thank you. Next. And of course, you know, each song kind of like supported the scene that was going on in the moment. So I love that choice that they made for sure. All right. So now that we have set the world for you and you guys understand where we are and what's going on and what's happening, let's get into the actual plot. Kick it off, T. I'm gonna have
So I think the way we're gonna do this is just go like character by character and just talk about their overall journey throughout the 6 episode seasons, eight episode season.
Yeah.
8 hours of my life blissfully spent. 8 and some change actually.
Multiple, because
Oh yeah, I've watched it.
The rewatches.
Right. You ain't gotta put me on blast like that though.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Us on blast. I'm with you.
Us on blast. So let's just start with the main character and like her arc, Daphne Bridgerton. She is the 4th of 7 kids, 8 kids, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 8 kids. And the oldest girl, right? So she's the oldest girl, and this is her summer to be debuted. We like from the beginning we're kicked off and it's like it's obvious that there's so much pressure, like I mentioned before. She's so much anxiety, so much pressure, and the first like real scene is her being debuted to the queen, and she goes in, she sachets in, she does her curtsy, and she's like the queen basically gives a comment on every single girl that's being debuted. We see the Featherington girls get debuted right before her. That was not great. And then she comes out and the queen says she's flawless, right? So now, and that's the scene that we see, and then it cuts to like Bridgerton's, right? So just in that lead up, we know that Daphne has spent a lot of time training for this, preparing for this moment in her life, and she's good, right? So that's pretty much sets the stage for us working with, going with Daphne throughout. And so just to make a long story short, Daphne winds up meeting the Duke of Hastings, Simon Hastings, and Simon Bassett. And long story short, they don't like each other. They both think each other has like an ego, and the other one is like wants the other one somehow. They're just both being very like, I'm too good for you esque.
Out here fronting
basically. But by the end, I believe the first episode, Simon actually is just like, okay, wait, I'm here now, and everyone knows that my dad just died, and now I've inherited all this land. All of these families, particularly mothers, are going to want their daughters to be in front of me. They want me to pick one of their daughters. I don't want to do none of that. I don't want to get married. I'm just here because I have to be here, but I don't actually want to date anybody. You, Daphne, are in a position where actually by this point in time, nobody wants you anymore. And we can talk about that in a minute. Why don't we act like we're dating so that more men will be interested in you and all the mothers would leave me alone? So that pretty much kicks off this season, basically. So there's just a lot to talk about with their dynamic, and I'm trying to think about like where we should start. Why don't we just start with like the idea of like, Nessa, when you saw this, did you actually think that this plan would work for them?
No, because TV's got TV. And so I knew that it would be a whole thing of like, oh, we're gonna pretend that we're not in love, but we're actually going to really be in love and fall in love, because that's what usually happens in shows like these, right? Where you're spending so much time with the other person, and eventually, you start to fall for them because you're learning about them and all that stuff. And I mean, to their credit, the ruse does work in a sense, because they're going through all of this, and then at some point, Daphne does get approached by a prince.
She does.
Right? The queen's nephew, Prince Friedrich, or Frederick, if you're from the hood, it's Frederick. But Freddie, gets approached by Prince Freddie, and he's like, I want you. And so it does work in a sense, but obviously behind the scenes, they are falling in love with each other and are meant to be these little lovebirds. I didn't expect so many ups and downs that they went through, because it was a lot. It was a lot, but yeah, I knew it would end up in a place where they would be together. And I'm happy it got to that place.
I mean, for the viewers at home who saw this, obviously, like their relationship was up in the air up until the last 20 minutes of the season,
Yeah,
really, right? And even
absolutely.
10 minutes of the season, like the last 10 minutes of their relationship on screen is when we're like, oh, okay, they'll be together. But even as a viewer, you're kind of like, for now, like,
Yeah,
is it gonna fall apart? And then we move ahead 9 months, wink wink, and see that they're still together, right?
right, exactly.
So yeah, there were definitely a lot of ups and downs, and I think specifically what I wanted to talk about was some of those ups and downs, like some of the
Mm-hmm.
dances, like they were a constant debate about a couple of different things, right? One of the main things was, I mean, long story short, you know this if you've seen it. Um, Simon and Daphne can't control their passions. They wind up kissing. Someone sees them. So now they're forced to get married, right? They decide to get married. Simon doesn't want to do it. Daphne's like, I don't understand. Like, you're about to ruin my family if we don't do this. And Simon's like, I know that you want a love match and you want children. I can't give that to you. I can't have children, is what he says. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, that's it. Let's do this. Let's get married. Like, it's like my family is going to suffer just because I can't have kids. Like, no, I'm not going to do that to my family. Let's get married. So they get married, and then it's not until after the wedding that they realize that they actually love each other. Like, they actually say that they love each other.
Right.
And then they consummate the marriage, which is a whole different story. We'll get to that when we talk about Daphne and her mom. But uh but they get together, and then for the first couple of weeks of the honeymoon, it's bliss.
Bliss,
It's
boy.
just
They are smashing everywhere on everything in
every
front of
surface,
everybody. And I loved every
every surface.
moment of it.
Like, imagine coming home and like the people, your like house attendants, you're just like, hey, come here, watch this.
Yes. I think the great thing that Bridgerton captured is that, like, if you've ever read like those kind of classic romantic novels, so much of it is about that heat and that slow burn and that almost but not really, but kind of but not really. And they do a lot of that where it's like their hands are like centimeters from touching, but they don't touch, but you feel the heat radiating out the screen and they're looking at each other. And that scene where Simon was licking the spoon in the tea shop, and I was just like, bro. So it's all this heat and all this buildup. So when they finally get to the episode of like when they're married and they're at the inn and they finally consummate their marriage, it's like a release. Like, you feel like you done went through it with them. You just like, ooh, sweating like, oh,
Yeah, and because I feel
made
like I
it.
went through it with them, I'm like mad. I'm just like, again, can we stretch it out longer next time? Like,
Can we?
no, like, are you 25? Okay, 25 minutes. All right, fine. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, I want Daphne to have more. And
I love that. And so as the season goes along, we learn about Simon's background where he has this strained relationship with his father because he had a stammer as a child. And for his father, it's like, we need to be perfect. And it reminded, have you ever watched Scandal?
yeah.
So it reminded me of the speech where Papa Pope gives the speech to Olivia, and he's like, we need to be twice as good to get half as much. And so I think that's the way he was looking at Simon, where it's like, they gave us this title and this lineage, and we need to be perfect. You having this stammer, you having this speech impediment is anti everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Simon's mother dies at birth. So, and at this point, well, I don't think his father ever remarries. So it's not like he has another opportunity, another option. That's another question that's kind of up.
Yeah.
Why did he never remarry?
Well, because he was an a-hole, but
Possibly. But I mean, listen, they was marrying for less. So that was his only son, his only heir. And so to be imperfect was such an issue. And that obviously destroyed Simon. A lot of times as children, we are seeking the approval of our parents, and to
all the
never
time.
get that, to never get that is so devastating. And so as his father dies, he makes this vow that I will not continue this line. I will not sire children. You will not get this. It ends with me and it's done with me, which is the dumbest decision ever. But I mean, what else? And also is like a decision that no one of that era would actually ever really make. But of that standing would ever
he didn't care about the standing, is his whole point. His
I
father made
know,
him
but
not care about it.
if you're thinking of that era, that's something that would have been very important to all of the men of that. Especially like if people are talking or like, yo, the Duke can't have kids. Like he's impotent. Like that's, but this is an alternate world. So of course he doesn't care, and that's the whole thing. But like, so he makes this vow to his dad as he's dying, and obviously seeks out to fulfill that vow. So when he does encounter Daphne, and Daphne kind of makes it clear, like, I do want to get married, he's like, I can't have kids. And we have to note that that is the wording, that I cannot have children.
Let's put a pause on that. I have a quick aside. I'm going to throw us off track for a hot second. Do you think Simon killed his dad?
No. Like mercy killing?
No, I mean, like, he's the reason, he was the specific action that caused his heart to stop.
Nah.
Okay.
He was dying.
I mean, yeah, but like, I mean, here's the question.
He played a role in it.
The exact question is, if Simon didn't say those words to him, would he have lived a little bit longer?
Nah. I think he was on his way out. Because I think it felt like he was avoiding his dad till the last minute. So I don't think they called him in until they were like, yo, your pops is about to go.
Right.
Like,
my question is, would the pops have lasted 5 more minutes if Simon would not have said, the line ends with me, knowing that it was going to like cause an emotional reaction out of his dad, and his dad had a heart problem, it was on his deathbed?
Perchance, but I think he was going out. Either way, that night he was dying. I think
he was. I'll give you that.
That night he was dying. I don't know if the 5 minutes would have mattered or not, but he was dying.
I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
So
he can't have kids.
He cannot have kids. But he has sullied Daphne's reputation by kissing her. Well, they kissed each other.
Yeah.
And Daphne makes a point to her brothers to be like, why do you think that, it was just his choice? Like, I did this too. Like, I was horny. Like, come on. And so Anthony challenges him to a duel because he's like, yo, this is my sister's pride.
You gotta die.
Somebody gotta die.
We forgot to mention that Anthony, the oldest Bridgerton, and Simon are best friends.
Yes, they went to school together. So yeah, he knows Simon pretty well, and knows his reputation around town and around Europe.
I want to bring that terminology back, by the way.
What is it?
A rake.
Oh.
Which basically means like the man is a hoe.
Yeah.
Basically. Like, can we rake hoe?
Collecting all the leaves. But yeah, so they have this duel. Daphne interrupts it. They decide to get married. In the background, there's another guy who's trying to marry Daphne because he's trying to come up in the world and trying to get up on that Bridgerton train. But that, of course, gets derailed. Daphne and the Duke end up getting married after they have to prove their love to the queen. Because first of all, the queen was like, you not about to curve my nephew like that. And so they definitely had to like prove to her, like, this is really a true love match. And it is the speech of the Duke who actually does it, because Daphne's sitting there bumbling and like can't get her stuff together. And so they get married. They have this lusty affair, and some of the ups and downs that we see is that Daphne, she goes from this sheltered, pure little girl into discovering what the world is about, because purity is so important. She doesn't even know what the heck. First of all, she don't know what sex is. She doesn't know how babies are made. So she's thinking like, oh, the dude just has some like impotence issue, whatever. Not realizing that he's just pulling out. Literally, like he's just
pulling game strong too.
Pull out game.
Got no little kids running around.
Strong. You know, he's been cultivating this over years. And so she goes to a maid and is like, tell me how kids are born, how they're created, and please don't spare the details. So when she puts two and two together, we come to a very controversial scene in the show where she mounts the Duke and rides him to completion. And the Duke clearly states during the act that Daphne, stop, Daphne, no, and she keeps going anyways. Now, one could quite consider this a violation of boundaries.
It's absolutely a violation of boundaries.
Very much so. And I think this was a point of conflict for a lot of the audience, where it's like, did she just rape the Duke?
It's a good question.
Kind of thing. I was very uncomfortable with the scene. I didn't think it was okay. I didn't think it was cool. Because if it had been the other way around, people would have been up in arms. It reminds me of the scene in Game of Thrones where Jaime and Cersei have sex
at the sept.
At the sept after what's the boy name?
Joffrey.
After Joffrey dies, and she's clearly like saying no, but like the showrunners were trying to play it off like, yeah, she's saying no, but she did really want it, kind of thing. And it was just this weird, like, oh, if you were in their mind, you would know that she was kind of okay with it. And it was like, yeah, but as an audience member watching, this is rape. And I remember that being an issue, and it very much so reminds me of this. Did you feel like the Duke was violated?
So I was actually just looking for the I had a huge problem with this. I don't know if you remember, like, me being really stuck on this point when the show first came out.
I remember we discussed it.
Yeah, a lot of women didn't think that Daphne did anything wrong, that she was right, and I was of what, in my, like, the people I've talked to in the minority, thinking that I didn't think it was rape, but I thought it was a level of sexual assault
in some way.
Assault feels like a strong word, but I do think that's what it was, like, legally defined, because she knew his sexual boundary and she went across it anyway, right? It reminded me, like, for example, there's a word for this, and I was just looking it up, but I can't find it right now. There's a word for someone who, if you engage in sexual relations with someone and you either talk about or you see that a condom is being, some sort of like condom is being used, and then after the fact you find out that, let's just say the male in this case takes the condom off, that there's a legal term for that. You're not allowed to
crime now.
do that. That's a crime, right?
Yeah, that's a crime now.
It felt very similar to that, like unwanted, like bodily fluids, like being exchanged, basically.
Right.
So that's what this felt like to me. And, like, you know, there were a lot of people who felt like she didn't do anything wrong, and the Duke lied. I don't think the Duke lied, personally. I think that was just he
misled her.
I think it was a gross miscommunication.
It was, but I also think he misled her, because there's a point before they even get married that he realizes that she has no clue what sex is. Because he's like, oh, you know, when you touch yourself, and she looks at him like he's nuts. He's like, you've never touched yourself?
Right.
She's like, no. He's like, well, when you touch yourself down there. And so, like, he knows what level of education she has. Now, maybe he thought that her and her mom had the talk before the wedding, And so maybe she knows by that point.
Well, really, it
But
would be, did she know before the duel, right? Because that's when he says, I can't have kids. And that's when she decides, like, okay, I'm willing to be with you anyway.
yeah.
So I agree that he did have a level of her being super naive and not understanding anything about sex. I do not argue that. What I'm suggesting is that in his mind, the term can't and won't are synonymous because that's how strongly he's taking that vow. That's what I was suggesting. So like, I can see why people would think he was misleading people, and people might think that I'm just, I don't know, I'm trolling or whatever. But I firmly believe this, that like,
I think he should have phrased it different. He should have been like, I'm not having
absolutely,
kids.
Absolutely. That should have been phrased different.
It's not that I can't, because I can't implies something different entirely. It should have been like, I'm not having kids. You don't have to explain why, because I think that's what he was trying to avoid altogether, was explaining the why. Right. But it was just like, I'm not doing this. It's not happening.
But what I'm arguing is that in his brain, it's all the same.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah, like if you tell me, T, I want you to watch Peacemaker, and I'm like, I can't watch that. It's not that I can't, it's I don't want to. But you understand.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing in my brain. It's like, I can't watch that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm speaking about. Like, I think specifically, that nuance is like that. I'm just allowing the air for that little bit of grace and debate to say, like, in the Duke's mind, it's synonymous, it's the same. And maybe he wasn't intentionally misleading her. It was just a breakdown of communication. They were using two different languages, basically. So
he could have done better, should have done better.
And she should have asked.
All in all, folks, make sure you know, make sure you are explicit in what you got going on, whatever levels or boundaries that may be. Leave no room for misinterpretations.
Bottom line, if someone says they can't, just follow up with, you can't or you won't.
You won't.
You can't or you won't. Okay, like, what are we talking about here? Always follow up. That's the
man.
That is the moral of this story.
Horrible. All right. So after this violation, obviously the Duke is pissed. He's like, if you having a kid, I'll support you, I guess, but I'm not trying to deal with you on any type of level. But of course, they end up finding their way back to each other. And they have their own ball, the Hastings ball, to close out the season. So they're the ones who actually close out the season. They open the season, they close out the season. And during the ball, it starts to rain, honey. And you know what rain symbolizes. So you know. So of course, this is where they make up. And soon afterwards, he makes a little rain of his own upon her flower bed. That's the reference that the mom uses. She's like, you know, after the rain showers, the flowers spring up.
Did she say that?
She did. That's how she's trying to explain sex to
I just remember her mentioning like the hounds, or like the
she mentions that after. Yeah.
The Basset hounds. She actually says Basset hounds, which is Simon's last name. He's like, they never figured it out, but somehow there were puppies. And I was like,
they made it happen.
You think you're explaining something right now? What?
I love it.
Oh, when Daphne came at her, when they came to the Queen's luncheon, and she was like, you didn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, you better tell her. You better let her know. Yeah. Eloise is going to be so much better off because you're doing that right now.
Maybe. We hope.
Oh, Eloise will know.
We hope. She'll figure it out.
And if her mom is ever going to get cursed out, it's going to be by Eloise.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So they make up, and then in another wonderful love-making scene, they actually go to completion, but this time it is the Duke's choice.
Yeah.
And of course, they produce an heir, a boy, 9 months later. And that's actually how the season ends out. Lots of ups and downs, lots of wonderful. But we also have a myriad of other characters to get into. So let's hop into Miss Marina Thompson, who is the cousin of the Featheringtons. What would you like to start off with her?
She shows up on their doorstep basically because Lord Featherington owes her dad a favor or something like that. So the agreement is that he owes her dad a favor, like, fine, you host Marina over the summer as she's debuted, and she, so she can find a husband like in London's upper class. Basically, I think that's a pretty cool negotiation to have. Because it's like, yeah, take my kid and like show out in society, and like, let's see if we can find her a rich man, right? Let's do that.
Right.
So she comes and she's beautiful. She's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Featherington already has 3 girls who are kind of like
the stepsisters.
Yeah, I was gonna say societally.
Stepsisters.
I was gonna say societally frumpy.
Yeah.
Just like not the belle of the ball, or however you want to say it. And now this like gorgeous cousin comes in, and they all feel threatened. Well, the mother and the 2 older sisters feel threatened immediately, right?
Who's clearly of mixed race also.
Yes, Marina is clearly mixed race. She had on her head tie. I was like, yes, girl.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes. Love that. So we find out fairly quickly that she's been there for over a month and she hasn't gotten her period. Dun dun dun. Mm-hmm. She is pregnant. She showed up to the Featheringtons pregnant. So now her whole story arc is, I am pregnant. I am in society now. I'm trying to find a husband. The father of my child is off at war, and I can't contact him as frequently as I would like. So we don't have a plan for that. Lady Featherton is like, we can't let this get out to society. No one can know because it's going to ruin the chances of all my daughters. You need to marry someone ASAP so that you can fake like this baby is their baby. And then everything's cool. So Lady Featherington tries to marry her off to a couple of old people who aren't going to ask too many questions. It's a whole thing. And Marina is just like, no, I'm not marrying anyone awful just so that I can have something, a stability for my child. At some point, Marina's thinking changes, and it's when Lady Featherington forges a letter from her baby daddy and basically was just like, I don't want nothing to do with you or that baby. So now that Marina thinks her circumstances have changed, she's like, all right, let me see if I can marry someone super quickly so that we can get this all done. Marina winds up choosing Colin Bridgerton, who is the 3rd brother of the Bridgerton family, Daphne's older brother, right over her. And also, quiet as it's kept, the love interest of Penelope Featherington, who is Eloise's best friend. So there's a lot of tension there that we see, but they go back and forth. Eventually, Lady Whistledown, who we haven't mentioned enough, winds up spilling the beans that Marina is pregnant, and it's a whole huge scandal. Yeah. Long story short, Marina finds out that her baby daddy died at war, and his younger brother winds up coming to collect her to like take up the duty and the responsibilities that should have been his brother. So that was Marina's story in an arc, right? Yeah, pretty much. What are some of the things that like stood out to you about her storyline, her plot points, and just like some of the choices she made?
I think it was telling that it was Lord Featherington who owed her dad a favor, and that she's kind of pulling in. She's kind of the one who sparks the conversation of like, oh, how a baby's made if we're not married, amongst the noble women out and about. Eloise and Penn start asking all these questions like, girl, how this happened? Like, I thought you had to be married to have these babies. What you mean you pregnant? Kind of thing. And then Mrs. Featherington just like intercepting those letters and messing with her. And it also, as much as she was waiting for Sir George to come back from war, I was just like, dang, I'm not gonna lie, man. If it was me, find somebody to take care of me, because I don't know.
Especially like, in that society.
Yeah, it surprised me just as a comment to the show throughout, like how much they were invested in true love. And I think that's the twist that they wanted to kind of put on this, is like, we're not just going to talk about marrying just for status or anything like that. But a lot of these women are looking for true love. And the way she kind of stood up for herself a lot of the times and was just like, man, I got some agency in this too. Like, I'm not just about to do what you want me to do because you feel like it, auntie. Like, that's not happening, type of thing. So I like that. I was just very shocked that she turned down Sir Philip. I was just like, girl, like I get it.
Well,
That's the man brother.
no, she thought she wasn't with child anymore. That's why she
True.
did it.
True. Yeah. So
She tried to do a
takes her little
little
tea.
tea. She tried to take her flat tummy tea. And thought it worked. She had to make her own and thought it worked, and it did not work.
It did not work. She was still with child. But I thought a great scene is when Mrs. Featherington takes her to like the slums of London and is like, look, if you don't marry as an unwed mother, like this is your future. And I thought that was so wild and interesting. Like I like that contrast because like we spent so much time in high society London that it was interesting for them to bring it down to like this grounded, slummy area to be like, this is how a lot of the citizens are actually living. Like, girl, are you trying to live this life? Because if not, you might want to, consider your options here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Even and I think to your last point about her being strong, like standing up for herself, standing up for herself. At the end of the show, Lady Featherington says, like, you're stronger than me. Like you're way stronger than me, and I can see that. Like you're gonna do well and you're gonna be fine, even though you're in a situation you don't really want to be in. So I definitely agree, and I appreciated. I don't think Marina Thompson is a character in the book, so this is a show. I believe this is a show creation. I like the contrast between you kind of need a family to contrast the Bridgertons against. And all of the gaudiness, all of the, what was the term you used? Like fake money or new money?
Nouveau riche.
See, that even sound rich. All of that about them is like a great contrast to the Bridgertons. But even having Marina contrast with them as well as being like, not only are the Bridgertons like the Featheringtons are like off in a world, but even Marina's coming in, someone who's not from their society, being like, you guys are crazy. I thought that was like great and expertly done. I do feel a little bad for Colin though.
She almost had him. She almost had old boy. Close. But you know what? I don't blame her. Cause she was like, man, if I gotta pick anybody, like I might as well pick like a young, handsome dude who's got like a nice title to him. Like, and so I totally get it. I'm totally.
It reminds me of Scooby-Doo. Listen, because it's like, and I almost would have got away with it if it wasn't for those like meddling kids, right? It's like you almost would have got away with it. Like if Marina would have chose any other man, she would have got away with it. It was because she chose that man, and Lady Whistledown wasn't having it, that it blew up in her face. So she was just so close, bags packed and ready to go.
Exactly. And I think Marina is a great transition to just talking about the Featheringtons as a whole, but more in particularly Penelope, right?
Yeah.
Penelope is the Featherington daughter that stands out the most. She's best friends with Eloise. They're like a little buddy cop comedy kind of thing going on, thick as thieves. And she has a crush on Colin Bridgerton that, pining for the sides, unrequited love type of thing. And is just begging to be seen by this boy. But because like, throughout most of the series, she's just kind of pushed to the side and not really noticed or anything like that. And even towards the end of the series, she's ready to confess. She's ready to be like, I'm in love with you and I want you and all these kinds of things. But he's like, I'm about to travel, girl. Like, I got to go find myself. And then he's like, oh, what were you going to say? And she's like, nothing. And I mean, should we reveal the plot twist now?
Yes, because I want to talk about it.
Okay. I'll let you do it.
So we find out in the, one of the final seasons of the show that Lady Whistledown, the person who's behind Shade Room and all that stuff for their era, is actually Penelope.
Pen, as she goes by some of those close to her.
Right. Yeah. People are like,
I love that.
That's great. Listen, there wasn't one person who was like, oh, that makes sense when they revealed that. I don't think there was not one person that was just like, no. Okay.
I mean, it made sense. It's just she was not on my radar. And I think that that's the whole point, is that she's not on anybody's radar. But it made sense that she's the one who's unseen, but she's invited to all the parties.
I agree.
Knows all the families intricately. So to me, it made sense.
It makes sense that it's her. It's unsatisfying from a viewing perspective. And here's why. If you're going to have this drama, this is my opinion, if you're going to have this drama and there's this like mystery element to it, part of a good mystery is bringing the audience along on the mystery, but also having enough there where it's not obvious, but the audience can look back and say, I should have caught that, right? And everything about Penn's circumstances in general make it obvious that she is a good candidate for this. But when you think about like detailed plot points and things of that sort, you don't get any inkling that it could be her. That's kind of my problem. Like,
is there enough clues?
Were there enough clues for like,
or breadcrumbs,
right? Like, I mean, I didn't write this story, obviously, but if I did, this is one of the areas. Right.
If
this is one of the right. If T wrote it, and I have another point later on, but we're just going to do it now since we're talking about it now. If I would have wrote this, I would have put in at least one instance where either Penn quotes something from Lady Whistledown before actually reading it, right? Like maybe the other characters don't catch it, but if that was weird. If if she would have said, you know, like so-and-so and so-and-so, like, are they talking about this? If she would have said the exact sentence maybe that someone is reading in Lady Whistledown and they didn't put it together, but the audience noticed that she did that, just give me something small like that to be like, wait, like on a rewatch, oh snap, I didn't even realize it. But she said what was in the paper before the paper got into her hand. Just give me something little like that is all I'm suggesting. But other than that, I agree with you. I think it's a great reveal. And I think it's going to be so interesting to watch the next season now that we know who Lady Whistledown is.
Yeah. And they're definitely going to focus, I think, a lot more on Penn as well and showing her as Lady Whistledown. So that should be definitely interesting to tune into. I think the other thing that we should also mention is that her daddy is a gambler and like
gambler.
Was out here messing with their money, and so was betting on fights that the Duke's best friend Will was getting into, and stages a loss so that he can get all the wages from it and like win this big jackpot, you know, by rooting in this guy's favor. But obviously all the other bookies and people like put it together and they're like, man, hold up, you ain't got all that money. Like, how'd you know this man was going to lose? Like, this just don't add up. This don't make sense. And so by the end of the season, their father is murdered. And so that leaves the Featherington estate up in the air of like, who's going to inherit this? Because apparently women cannot inherit, you know, estates, even in this world. So the question is, who is going to come over and take care of the Featherington estate and inherit all of that? That was kind of like a fun little side story to watch play out. All right, let's keep it moving because there's so many characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have like one main one to talk about left, and that'll take us right into the next season.
Anthony.
Yeah, so let's talk about Anthony. So Anthony is the firstborn Bridgerton of a firstborn Bridgerton 3 times over. Where is his wife? Is what Simon the Duke wanted to know.
The Viscount.
What the Viscount wanted to know. Simon wanted to know about the Viscount. So Anthony has a sneaky link, Sienna. Love that name, by the way. Sneaky link Sienna, who is an opera singer, great at what she does, beautiful girl, but she has a job. She's not a woman in society. She doesn't get invited to the balls. She's a working woman and she makes her own way with the support of Anthony Bridgerton, who actually pays for her house and like supports her. He's basically like her sugar daddy, but they actually love each other. Like they are obviously in love. And Anthony throughout the season has to deal with this fact that like he is not allowed, based on society's norms, to be with this woman because of their differing births, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we see Anthony go back and forth a lot. Like his mother places pressure on him. Even Simon, I think, places pressure on him to like step up and be the Viscount that society expects him to be. He needs a wife, he needs an heir, versus like his love for this woman who I think is pretty obvious they've been dating for a while. Like even his mother knew that he was putting her up in the apartment and nobody was talking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he like cuts her off cold turkey after promising that he would always take care of her. He cuts her off, and then when he's about to duel, he like makes his brother promise that he would like keep giving her money so that she could live. And then after that happened, well, he actually runs to her and is like, we can run away together if I kill this man, or if I'm dead, I'm dead. But if I kill this man, then we can run away together. So anyways, he goes back and forth about his stance on whether or not he wants to be with Sienna. And Sienna does a boss move that I need every single woman in this generation to understand and like take note on. I was not expecting this to happen. And that might be a comment on my own dating life, but I was not expecting this. Not expecting this to happen. After like the second time of him flip-flopping back and forth, she was like, you see that man? You see him? He loves me for me. I'm not about to do this with you. You came to take me to a ball. Finally, you finally realize that you want me in your life and you don't care what society thinks. It's too late. That man is getting all of this because he doesn't need to balance the life that he wants with the life that he has.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. And I was like, ooh.
Yes. Because that man was taking her out, was showing her off, was doing all these type of things while Anthony was out here just like, you know, smashing her in the background and in the shadows and all that kind of stuff. On a tree. Right. And she was just like, I deserve better than this. Like, and he got money, so I'm good. Like, we don't have to pretend. We don't have to do this anymore. And I love that. I love that I felt like it was the ultimate revenge because it was at the point where Anthony was like, I'm ready to take you on. I'm ready to show you out in society. I'm ready to go public, and literally waits for the moment for him to show up, to pick her up with these flowers, lets the other man answer the door, and then comes down. With no pants on.
That was giving me very much Pete Davidson, I'm in bed with your wife vibes.
Kanye.
Like very.
Yes. Where you at? In bed with your wife. Basically. And then she comes to the door and was like, you know, I thought things over and nah, I'm good. No. And I love that for her. I love that for her. I love that's where she ended up. I hope she's happy and living in bliss with that man, whatever his name is. But like, good for her.
Good for her. And Anthony, being the person who he clearly has a lot of emotional things to like work through and just doesn't know how to handle his emotions. I'm sure he doesn't understand he's never had to take rejection before. His reaction to this is to overcorrect the other way. And the last time we see Anthony in this season, he's basically just like, I plan on finding a wife. I'm gonna make that my mission now. I'm gonna be the Viscount. And I've recognized that the issue with all of this is love. So I don't plan on marrying for love. I'm just gonna do it and be done with it, basically.
Right.
And it's just opposed against Daphne and Simon, who obviously have found this like wonderful love story. And they're in a great place at that point in time to show this stark difference in how tragic a decision or a mindset like that can be. But I thought it was really beautiful to show, like I mentioned, like Anthony overcorrecting by like being, I don't want to be in love anymore. I think that speaks really true to a lot of people nowadays and how they handle relationships.
Yeah. And it was interesting to me because I felt like, honestly, it was such a F-boy move though, because it was like, you spent all season dragging this woman around. And then now you finally decide on your own time and terms that, oh, I can be with her, but it's too little too late now. And now you're just like, oh, F love. And it's like, no, because she was willing to give it to you, but it was you who, you know, wanted to play by certain rules. So now you mad, like you a little boy, like you crying in
yeah.
the corner and you mad because she turned you down because she decided that she deserves better. It's not that she didn't love you or didn't want to be with you, period. But you was out here playing games for too long, and now you lost your opportunity. So now you feel like, oh, you're not even looking at it like, oh, maybe it was me, right? Like I messed up. It's like, nah, love is the problem. It's like, sir, not quite. But obviously, that's going to be our storyline heading into season 2. We're going to be following more of Anthony and like what he's and his search for a bride and a partner and what that will entail and what that will look like.
Yeah. So, what are some other things you're looking forward to with season 2?
Season 2. I'm interested to see because to kind of run it back a little bit. So Madame Delacroix is the modiste of the town, and she makes all the dresses for all the women in high society. And at some point, Eloise believes that she's the one who is Lady Whistledown, which is not the case. But she also flees London. Also, what's her name? Marina makes out that she's not from France. Right? She points out like, girl, I know this ain't really you. But so she leaves town, she flees town. So I'm kind of curious.
You're saying flees town as if she left for a reason. I didn't pick that up. Like the way Benedict, who we didn't even get a chance to mention, who's I like him a lot, by the way. He just mentioned that she went on holiday.
Did he? I felt like the way they presented it was like she left town and didn't really tell anyone that she was leaving.
But who would she have to tell?
Fair point. I don't know. But it kind of felt, I don't know. I got that kind of vibe. Maybe I would need to rewatch it again. But
no, I mean, I'm interested. I'm here for it. Like I like that take. Yeah. I'm just saying I didn't pick that up.
That was kind of
the did flee. Why was she fleeing?
Right.
Where is she going? And she's from England, really, because she had that like accent, right? Like
right. So she's definitely coming back to season 2. So I'm very interested to see what role she's going to play and how that's going to pan out, if her and Benedict are going to keep their affair going or what that's going to look like. Season, I mean, okay. I kind of want to let you go off on season 2 for a little bit because I did watch the video of like things that we can kind of expect in season 2.
I'll go with
mine. Yeah.
What I'm looking forward to. Okay, so if you've seen the season 2 trailer, which you can easily do, just go on Netflix. We see that there are 2 sisters. I forget their last name. I don't want to butcher it. 2 sisters Sharma, yes. Sharma sisters being introduced into society. The person who is like supporting their debut is Lady Danbury, I am a stan. She is my favorite character on the whole entire show. I legit want to be her when I get to be near her age. Like I want everything that she has, everything. I mean, I don't know her backstory yet.
I want to know where her money comes from.
Where does it come from?
Where does it come from?
And like the fact that you can say whatever you want to whoever you want in society, like even the queen, she was just like, I can't curtsy any lower with these days. And she was like, I'll allow it. Like she got the respect of everybody. She kicked the queen out of Simon's house. So
the party. Oh, yo, the reactions in that moment. Like I love watching that scene just for the reactions because the queen was like, okay, right. You right. I see what's happening. Okay. And I was like, how far back do y'all go? Like, do y'all really know each other? Where's she get her money from? Who's supporting her? Is she supporting herself? What is the issue? What's the
how does she wind up being everybody's auntie? Because you clearly helped raise the Duke, Simon, and now you're debuting the Sharma sisters. Sharma sounds like they come from East Asia somewhere, which colonies of England, like it's not weird for that to be a thing. Like if this show is going to be like historical adjacent, and now all the people that England had effed up over the years are now being elevated in this world to being equals, I'm going to make the assumption that like these individuals actually are from like Indian or like South Asian heritage. How did Lady
Yeah.
Danbury get connected with it? Like, what is that connection? I want to know. So I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited. In the trailer, you see Daphne you see Violet Bridgerton holding a baby that you assume is Daphne's, her grandchild, her grandson. But we see Simon. We know that the actor said that he wasn't going to come back for this season, but
is it a surprise, you think?
Is this a surprise that he might be in like a shot or two? Like, just give me like the beginning or the end. I don't know. I think Reggae might show up. This is supposed to be Eloise's first season, potentially. Plot twist. I know Eloise is supposed to be this like strong, independent. I don't want to be bound by the rules of society and have to marry off. Like, I want to go to school and I want to learn and go to university. I would like to just suggest that it's also possible Eloise may not be into men. Just going to put that out there.
That would not shock me.
It would not shock me, and it would make, and I'm not saying that this has to be the case, but I do think it fits with, like, in tangent to, like, adjacent to her wanting to get an education and like not wanting to be like tied down by the rules of being a woman. One of those rules is that you have to marry a man. So it just makes sense to me that maybe like part of her like being gung-ho about that is so that she doesn't have to address with her family, with society, that she's not actually into men.
So it would not shock me, but also I would say this, I feel like it's kind of treacherous water, because then it's like, oh, can a woman just not want to have education just for the sake of having education? Like, does it have to be that like, oh, I'm just not into men and that's why I'm pursuing that? So to the flip side of that, I would actually still love it if that she was straight.
I agree.
But it's just like, fuck it, I got ambition. Well, excuse my language. I got ambition. And like, I'm just trying to be out here like doing my thing, So although like I'm not mad or against her being bi or being gay or whatever, but I think it can make a stronger statement, especially the way they positioned her all first season. I think it can make a stronger statement if she is straight, but it's just like her head is totally in a different game altogether. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Any other things? Any other predictions that you have for season 2?
I think we see the Featheringtons in the trailer, and they are still like in their garment. So you're assuming they still have access to the estate. Who is the person that's giving them access? I predict that it's Marina's dad, Marina's family, for obvious reasons. Even though Lord Featherington bet the title of his house on the bet, and that's how he was able to get all the money. So technically, like, does the house go to the Bow Street Runners? I don't know, but that doesn't make sense if we still see Lady Featherington, like, in society or whatever. So I'm super interested to see what happens with them. I want to see Marina's baby. I want to know how she's doing as well. And then finally, do we think Penelope is going to be outed as Lady Whistledown?
It's too soon.
You think so?
We need a few more seasons. Yeah. We still need a few more.
So, but here's the thing. Bill, just real quick. If Eloise and Penelope are of similar age, and Eloise, and Penelope obviously is in society, she's on the marriage market, the assumption is that she might get married sooner than the last episode, like the last season of Bridgerton, meaning like at some point Pen might be married and she's still Lady Whistledown, which I think could be really interesting.
Yeah. I worry about if the audience is going to get fatigued of the whole ruse of like her trying to hide being Lady Whistledown. Because like there were like 8 books. And I'm not saying that they're going to come out with 8 seasons, but potentially it's definitely going to be more than like 3-4 seasons.
I think so. It's like we're clear for 4 at this point altogether.
Yeah. So it's like, how long do we really want to? But then again, you know what? Man, we watched like 8 seasons of Gossip Girl and trying to figure that out. So,
but with Gossip Girl, did you know who Gossip Girl was?
You don't find out until the very last episode.
That's different. We know who she is.
Right.
So it's like, like you said, we're watching her have to navigate it, and they would have to make that super interesting for us to watch in order for us to care.
Yeah,
So,
at a
yeah.
certain point.
So those are the things
Okay.
I'm looking forward to. Lady Danbury, Daphne's baby and Simon, Eloise and her storyline, the Featheringtons and what's happening with them, and then Penelope and Lady Whistledown. What you got?
Okay. So now, hold on. Wait a minute. So I will say this is spoiler free. Um, I'm literally going off of a video that Netflix put out themselves about things that they could reveal about season 2 before it drops. So these are the things that come into play. So as T mentioned prior, we do have the Sharma sisters, Edwina and Kate, and they are introduced into society by Lady Danbury. And Edwina is enamored with Sir Anthony. And so, but to get to her, he has to get through her sister, Kate, who is very protective and is shielding her sister and making sure that her sister gets the proper match, no matter who it may be. But it's very clear that there is a love triangle forming amongst them three that might pit sister against sister. So that's the thing. I'm here for the mess. I'm here for the scandal. I am most interested to see that play out for sure, and to see who the Viscount truly ends up picking as his wife.
So, Lord help the mister who comes between me and my sister, and Lord help the sister who comes between me and my man.
Yes.
For the viewers at home, Nessa and I used to be in show choir way back in the day, and that was one of the songs we used to sing. Like, I've never had used to sing that song before until now.
Until today. So yes, that is going to be a major, major plot line. Also, they revealed that one sister has a very big secret. We don't know what this secret is, what it entails. So that should be interesting to see that revealed.
I feel like go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna guess what the secret is, but go ahead.
I mean, you might as well put it out there now. Let's see if you're right.
Well, I was just gonna say that, like, I feel like virginity and anything sexual like that is like almost too cliche at this point.
Yeah.
But to be the secret, being like, oh, she's not a virgin, or oh, she like, yo, what if she had a baby somewhere? That would be kind of dope. But
that's possible.
That's possible. But a secret, I don't know, somebody was born a different gender. I don't know. Like, I'm just like, what could be like the huge clearly I don't know enough about the rules of Regency era society to know what would be super taboo besides anything sexual. But
yeah.
I don't know, maybe she went to university or something like that, and that was a big no-no. Maybe she dressed up as a man and like went off to university. You never know. But go ahead.
We'll see. But one of them has a scandalous secret, apparently. We're going to see Penn struggle over balancing being back out in society as a debutante and being Lady Whistledown. So I think at least for this season, it's going to be interesting watching maybe how she operated and like how she was like getting these things printed off and what her system was. Because that's also a big question, right? Like, people talk. So it's like, how did you get these scandal rags printed so efficiently and with like without anybody like giving you up? So I think that should be interesting. The Queen is still trying to track down who Lady Whistledown is. So she has not given up that battle. That should be interesting to see. We find out that whoever inherited the Feathering estate is a cousin. Because in the clip, they're like, oh, if Mrs. Featherington says, if I don't marry all three of you this season, then our cousin is going to come and take over this estate. So I'm guessing it's maybe like Marina's dad. I mean, that's the cousin that we know. So they always could introduce someone new or something like that, but I'm going to guess that it's her dad. Also, like the way that Marina was like lingering on the stairs, when they were like, oh, who's taking over the estate? And they hand her the paper, and Mrs. Featherington's
Mm-hmm.
looking at the paper like, you know, shocked and stuff like that. And Marina's like on the staircase, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna guess that it's either Marina or it's Marina's dad.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens with that. They mentioned that Benedict has a new goal. We don't know what that is. Last we saw Benedict, he was off to travel the world and go to Greece.
No, that was
And all these.
Colin.
Sorry, you are so right. That was Colin. But yes, apparently Benedict has a new goal.
So remember,
So
Benedict this season, he just wants to paint and just live his life and just get an understanding of like where his identity and like roles and responsibilities fit in within like being the second born son of a Bridgerton and like working in this society. So I'm interested. I'm here for it. I liked Benedict a lot.
yeah. So Benedict has a new goal, so we'll figure out what that is. Colin does come back though. Colin comes back. We get to see the Bridgerton summer estate, which I'm very excited to see. And they will be hosting the Sharma sisters there as well. So that should be fun to watch all the things go down. We also learn why Anthony is the way that he is after his father passed away. So we'll be diving deeper into. It'll be a very Anthony centric season. So, and I'm not gonna lie, like when I first got the news that like, oh, season 2 is gonna be about Anthony, I was just like, I'm not really here for it. I don't think I really care. But I think after the rewatch and after watching the trailers drop, I was just like, this could be really good. I think they needed to throw in that love triangle for me to like really be like, let's about to go down. And my filthy mind self will be rating these sex scenes as compared to season 1, because season 1 to me was flawless. And I loved it.
Oh, I had issues with the sex scenes.
What? Which ones?
They were too short. I felt like I just felt like I didn't believe that, and this is not a comment on anyone, but I don't know that I believe that Daphne instantly was able to experience the pleasure that comes from sexual relations like in her first go. From what I hear from people, it takes a while for, especially for women, to build up to like having orgasms or just like getting stimulated from like penetration, like all this other stuff. I don't even know if I can say that stuff on our YouTube channel. Whatever, we'll figure it out. I would have. I felt like it would have been a little bit more realistic if it took her some time to building up to being pleasured. If that makes sense.
But also, TV shows got a TV show.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't long enough. Give me more. I mean, they did it a lot, but maybe it was more nuanced with each session. That like, okay, like she's actually like really starting to like, you know, it was confusion at first and like excitement, and then like, okay, this is becoming to be a little bit more pleasurable. Like now I'm starting to find out more about my own sexuality. Like I would have liked to see a little bit more of that, but it all takes place in like 3 weeks, so.
TV shows got a TV show, and we got to keep this thing pushing, and we got to make sure that's appealing to the audience.
But I'm here for you ranking them. Yes.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how they will stand up to season 1, because now we've got all these new characters to kind of get acquainted to.
Yeah, we don't have reggae.
I know. But honorable mention, and I don't think he gets enough freaking airtime, is the boxer Will. Like, high key is fine and well built. I was rewatching and I was like,
and smart, wait a minute. And emotionally intelligent and just like
committed.
A man, just like, you're mad at me. You're not mad at me. So you need to go figure out why you're mad. Like just even being able to like have that emotional intelligence to be like, you're my friend. I love you. I know you well enough to know that you're taking out your anger on me, even though you probably have a reason to be peeved at me because of just how you know, like our friendship, but you're really mad at yourself. Go figure that out. And then like invite me to your ball and I'll be there. Like,
right.
I love that.
And I'm also hoping he doesn't get caught up in Lord Featherington stuff.
Because he got half the money.
Yeah. Because his wife had on a nice jewel around her neck at the last ball in the finale. So I'm hoping he doesn't get caught up in that. Yeah, I'm hoping they don't break his arms or something. Like,
ooh, that would be bad. Take the money away and then.
Yeah, leave them just destitute and stuff. So
I mean, the Duke would never let that happen. So
I mean, are we even going to get him? So
we might not, but we might not see him on the screen. But like, I feel like the Duke
his
would
presence
be like,
will be felt.
Yeah, I feel like the Duke would be like, yo, come live at Hastings, like just chill. Like, there's plenty to go around. Like, I know as a man, your honor, yada yada yada, but like, at least send your kids and I'll like foster your kids while you go figure it out. Like, I don't think the Duke would leave them completely high and dry.
Yeah. So I think we have a lot to look forward to in season 2. I'm so exciting. It's dropping March 25th on Netflix. You can watch season 1 now. Bring yourself up to date, or if you've never seen it, go watch it. We are in love with the story, in love with all that it has to offer, for all of the mentions that we've mentioned above. Any last minute things or people or anything that you want to mention before we wrap this up?
I'm here for more interracial dating on the show. I like it. Obviously Anthony and the Sharmers are going to be interracial. I would love to see more of that. I found out recently that there's going to be a spin-off show. I think that was mentioned before, but we got more details about it. So there's going to be a spin-off from the Bridgerton show about the Queen and her whole backstory. And part of that show, that show will include the backstories of Violet, Bridgerton, and Lady Danbury. So we'll get to see how Lady Danbury got all that money. I'm super excited. I need that now. I need that yesterday.
I need that now.
Before
I need season 2. That should have been the prequel season that dropped. What do you mean?
I need that. So that just gave me chills. Like, I want to see Lady Danbury on the marriage market. I want to see the Queen marrying King George and getting like snippets of him not being like all the way there, and like, how does she deal with that when like she's in love with him and they're friends? And I want to see all of it. Give it to me now, please.
Also, I need Lady Danbury to debut me into society, because whatever I'm doing is not working. So, ma'am, take over my Hinge account, take over, Coffee Meets Bagel for me. Anything you got to do, miss. Like, walk me into the parties, whatever. But because whatever she's doing is working.
Walk me in with the collar pop. She be having some high collars. Her collar be all the way up.
Listen.
Walk me all the way in.
With her rich reds and purples and everything.
I want a cane too when I get her. I want the whole thing.
Are you just going to dress as Lady Danbury?
I kind of want to do it for Halloween. I'm not even going to lie. I want to be Lady Danbury for Halloween.
I would love it.
She knows everything. She says whatever is on her mind.
I love it.
She has breakfast by herself. It's great. Like,
her tea room is popping too. I was watching like behind the scenes when they were going through the sets. They had the actresses who play Penn and who play Eloise like taking us throughout the sets, and they brought us into Lady Danbury's tea room. I was like, this is nice. Like,
she out here doing game like spade nights, playing spades with all the ladies. They talking ish, drinking,
gambling.
I love it. Money.
I love it.
I want to be her.
I love it.
I aspire to be Lady Danbury. I mean, I reserve the right to change that notion once I see the prequel, but for right now, that's what I want.
Quiet MVP of the season.
She really is. She really is. She really is. She's the one that was just like, love matches have been made with less.
Yep. She helped bring them together, helped keep them together. They was out there dancing in the rain. She said, all right, everybody, it's time to go.
You too. Take them puppies and all your entourage and go. Get on.
That potty done. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get up out of here. Because
Penn's older sister, there's Prudence and then there's
Philippa.
I forget which one it was. Her and her man was ready to go dance in the rain, and Danbury was like, go now.
That cane came up real fast. She said, nope. Yeah, got to go.
She's been here before because she felt it. She knew they were about to do it. She wasn't even looking at them. She was like, I feel you.
It was in the air. It was in the air. I think that's the thing too. And I feel like they were trying to show that or hint at it in the trailers and stuff, was that there was such an electricity with the Duke and with Daphne. And I don't know how I'm going to feel having that dynamic gone. And I don't think it's going to be the same with Anthony and anybody else. So I'm curious to see how much of that I can get and that will satisfy me. But we'll see.
I think it'll be interesting. I think if we think about Daphne and Simon, and then we'll wrap up. If we think about Daphne and Simon bringing all the I don't want to say expertise, bringing all of the experience, right? Like when you watch a movie, you're like, oh, that dude knows what he's doing. Like he's all the stuff. And she's kind of like the bright-eyed, but she's the avatar for us, right? I think in this next season it's going to switch where Anthony is our avatar, obviously, because this is the character we're supposed to care about. But I think the Sharma sisters, at least one of them is going to come in and school him, and we're going to be like, ooh, I'm here to watch this. Like I like that. Yeah.
The older sister is feisty and I'm here for it. Like I want to see how she's going to stir things up and see how Penn is going to operate through all
in the trailer we see Anthony fall into the lake and he comes out white t-shirt all wet and she's
clinging. Like, and she's like, sister, it's not polite to stare. And then she's staring about.
I'm staring too. I'm just like, please, yes, thank you. Didn't know Anthony. I didn't know you had. I mean, I saw it, but I wasn't paying attention to it. Now I'm paying attention to it.
Now we watching.
Now we
watch it.
Anyways, any last thoughts?
That was it for me. That's all I got.
Sounds great. So thanks for taking the time to chat with us, all things Bridgerton. Like we said, we're excited for the season coming out very, very soon, March 25th, on Netflix. If by then Netflix has stopped password sharing, you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out, right? Like
make it happen.
Make it happen because it's that serious. You need to watch this show. So as always, Nessa, it was a pleasure having this conversation with you. Stay tuned. We have some things coming down the pipe. Obviously, there's always superhero stuff happening. Stay tuned for all things. Not sure the order of which these things are going to come out, but there's Batman stuff. There is other Marvel stuff coming out. There's Moon Knight coming out on Disney Plus. There's just so much stuff. Doctor Strange, how did I forget that? Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore. Super psyched for that. Like there's a lot coming. So stay tuned to our channel, Casual Fangirls, for all your things fandom related. Any other last words, Nessa?
Find us on Instagram at Casual Fangirls _. Make sure you check out our YouTube, Casual Fangirls. Tune in, comment, like, dislike. I mean, fight us if you want to. Like, we are here to argue all points. We're with it. So, we enjoy talking about all these things, and I had a great time talking about something outside of the superhero.
I can't wait.
This was fun.
I can't wait to have the reason to talk more about dating and stuff like that. So should be good. I mean, it'd be interesting to get a man's perspective on some of this stuff if we can find one that is into
that actually watches the show.
Yeah,
I know, right?
It's going to be a little difficult, but we'll figure it out if it makes sense. So with that, I've been T.
And I'm Nessa.
And together we are the Casual Fangirls. See you soon.
Bye.